Week number 8 of the fantasy football season kicks off on Thursday Night Football, just a few hours away. And in today's video, I'm going to help you guys sift through the bye-pocalypse that is upon us. 6 teams on bye this week, you guys. Maybe firing up some running backs that shouldn't even grace your lineup ever, but you have to play them this week. So today, we are going to sort through all of that. I'm going to help you guys set your lineup at the running back position, breaking down my top 40 running back rankings and tiers for week number 8 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you don't end up enjoying today's video, that please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin with my must-start running back ones, my S tier, my tier numero uno at the running back position: Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Javonte Williams, Rachaad White, Quinshon Judkins, Cam Scatteraboo, Saquon Barkley, as well as Derrick Henry. Any running back that gets to go up against the Miami Dolphins, which is what Bijan Robinson gets to do on Sunday, is a cupcake matchup. They are going to dominate. 50 Shades of Grey style, I fear, as a Dolphins fan, for what this guy is going to do to us. He is going to tear us limb from limb. Bijan Robinson has been a must-start top 3 running back every single week of the season, and with this being one of the easiest matchups for running backs on a per-game basis, Bijan Robinson is going to absolutely dominate, so I feel incredible about him this week. At number 2, we got Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is typically my running back 1 every single week, but this week, because Bijan had such an easy matchup up against the Dolphins, I decided to bump him up. Christian McCaffrey going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. Now, in terms of a matchup, going up against the Houston Texans is not the best. It's a middle-of-the-road matchup, but Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey, and you are going to start him every single week. Last week, he was the RB1. This is a guy that could score 40-plus fantasy points, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. He has yet to fall outside the top 8 at the running back position so far this season, and honestly, if he could stay healthy, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, Christian McCaffrey will end up as the RB1 this season, unless my number 3 running back has something to say about it, and that is Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Tennessee Titans. Now, Jonathan Taylor has been so consistent this season. He hasn't been as consistent as Christian McCaffrey or Bijan because he has fallen outside the top 20 twice, but he's finished as the number 1 overall running back twice so far this season in 7 games, and he's been a top 3 running back in 4 of 7 games, and there are no signs of this slowing down. The Indianapolis Colts offense is a certified wagon. The Indianapolis Colts offense is one of the best offensive lines, and Jonathan Taylor is on fire. 3 straight games inside of the top 8, going up against the 4th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. You just got to know JT is going to go crazy. At number 4, we have Devon Achane. Now, honestly, I understand being worried about the Dolphins offense as a whole, and I definitely did think Achane would have performed better last week, but Mike McDaniel obviously has no idea what he is doing at this point. He is in too deep at this point. We should have been spamming the run button up against the Cleveland Browns. I get the Cleveland Browns have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, but in that kind of a game environment, we should have been running more. He only had 13 carries for 82 yards. He was the running back number 15, but ultimately, Devon Achane's the kind of guy that if he had 9+ targets up against the Atlanta Falcons, I would not be surprised at all, especially if he scores multiple touchdowns, because you know the guy has it in him. Besides Jalen Waddle, he is the focal point of this offense, and honestly, as a Dolphins fan, I would say he is the focal point of this offense. The 17th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. Devon Achane has been very reliable all season long, so we're just going to keep ranking him highly. At number 5, we got Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. He is limited with the calf injury, was limited last week, and then he does end up playing. He was one of those guys that was really seeming to be a game time decision. I thought all week he was going to play. Then it kind of came out Saturday or Sunday that, hey, maybe it's not as much of a lock as I thought. He does end up going as the RB9. He has scored 2 touchdowns now in 3 straight games. 6 total touchdowns over the last 3 games, and honestly, with the fact that we just saw the Pittsburgh Steelers revive Chase Brown's career with such a good game up against them last week. I understand that he didn't necessarily score a touchdown, but he looked incredible on the ground. The 20th best matchup for running backs on a per game basis. Again, we've ranked Josh Jacobs very highly all season. He started off the season a little bit so-so, but that's been the Josh Jacobs thing as a Green Bay Packer. Start off a little bit slow and then go hard in the motherfucking paint through the end of the season, and that is exactly what he's been doing over the last 3 weeks. Now we pivot to James Cook. Now, James Cook has been the opposite of Josh Jacobs, right? We talk about how Josh Jacobs started off the season slow and has been on fire recently. James Cook comes out the season like a bat out of hell, running back 4, 2, 8, and 10. Last 2 games, running back 41 and 25. Coming out the bye week, I expect the game plan. Shout out to The Rock. That's a great movie if you've never seen it. Another great movie from The Rock is The Smashing Machine. I watched that last week. The story of Mark Kerr. Beautiful. Shout out to The Rock, honestly, because normally he's the kind of guy that you're like, oh, this guy's just a fucking phony. He doesn't really know how to act. That was some incredible acting, in my opinion, if anyone saw that. But James Cook has been acting a fool over the last 2 weeks. Less than 10 points in both games. But I believe up against the Carolina Panthers, he will get revived. He'll get a quick revive here in this spot, the 24th best matchup for running backs. But I just think the team's going to commit to him a lot more coming out the bye week. They were very successful. They were winning games early on in the season with him very, very involved in the offense. I think they go back to that this week. Then we got Javonte Williams in his revenge game up against the Denver Broncos in Mile High. Javonte Williams, another one of these guys that's an uber safe asset. Again, all these guys in the top 12 we feel very good about, especially up in the upper echelon, right through, I mean, right here is probably the cutoff of where I feel super duper safe, because Rachaad White, there's some question marks. Quinshon Judkins, Cam Skattebo, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. Again, I feel good about all of them, but I feel the best about these guys. I understand that the Denver Broncos do have a solid defense, and they're pretty solid against the run, the 23rd best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. But with this Dallas Cowboys offense looking like a fucking wagon, just dominating game in and game out, and with the Denver Broncos defense just getting their teeth punched in by the Giants last week, and again, this is expected to be the highest scoring game of the week. We've talked about this all week long. I do expect a big game out of Javonte yet again. Then we move to Rashad with 2 A's. White, Bucky Irving out again. Chris Godwin out again. When the fuck is Bucky Irving going to come back is a big question at this point. Rachaad White shit the bed last week up against the Detroit Lions, as did the whole offense. Baker Mayfield looked lost. He was in need of a map. He needed some map quest, and he did not end up having it. The fact that people used to drive around back in the day and read off the directions off a piece of paper and it actually got you there is absolutely crazy. And you might be like, Nick, are you like how old are you? How do you not remember that? I do remember it because my dad used to use MapQuest when we would go to like baseball games and stuff when I was a kid. Running back 26 last week. Baker, again, was sailing the ball over guys. It was like, I saw someone say that they put helium in the ball because it was just fucking going way over guys' heads. Was embarrassing. Rachaad White doesn't play as well, but if there ever was a spot to bounce back, it would be up against the New Orleans Saints, the 11th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. Rachaad White was the top 10 running back in the 2 other games he played for Bucky Irving, with him being the lead back, so we're not going to panic after one down game up against the Lions. Then we got Quinshon Judkins, who just ran a fucking train on my Miami Dolphins. I told you guys last week, I told you this week, anyone who plays up against the Miami Dolphins, it's like the free square in bingo. He scored not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns as the RB4. Now he definitely faces a much tougher matchup. The Patriots defense is very, 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 very good up against the run, but I continue to believe heavily in the fact that Quinshon Judkins is the key to this offense. We have seen him play incredibly well against tough run defenses before. So while I'm definitely not as optimistic as I would be if he could face, the Dolphins again or a different defense, I still think, again, the Cleveland Browns run on Judkins. America runs on Duncan. I think he should be able to have a great game yet again. Then we got Cam Skattebo. If you wanted to make the argument to start Skattebo over Judkins, I think that is fine. Mr. Cam Skattebo was the RB11 last week up against the Broncos, again in a hilarious choke of large proportions. They should not have lost that game. That kicker should have been basically drawn and quartered in the fucking locker room, right? Like, what's that guy's name? William Wallace, who shot fire out of his ass, right? That was just a dreadful performance. Like, if I was a fan of the Giants, I would have broke my fucking television. Like, as a Dolphins fan, I know my fandom has been terrible. I've yet to break a TV, but that's the kind of game where I understand. You know, you ever see those videos where people like throw a fucking a chair through the TV? I'm like, that makes no sense. That's one of those games where, yeah, if a TV gets shattered, I'm not really that surprised if someone hits it with the fucking left hook of Conor McGregor. So, you know, last time out for Cam Skattebo, great running back 11. Last time out up against the Eagles, he was the running back number 5 with 3 touchdowns. I don't think he is going to be able to repeat that, if I'm being honest with you, but the Eagles matchup is the 8th best for the running back position, so I do think that Cam Skattebo should be solid yet again. Then we got Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley, it has been far from smooth sailing for him. It's been choppy water, back-to-back games with less than 10 PPR points. The matchup up against the Giants, though, is fine, right? This is a fine matchup for him. It's the 15th best matchup for running backs on a per game basis. So this should be the Saquon Barkley revenge game, the Saquon Barkley comeback game. But frankly, what I've seen this season, I really wish I could rank him higher. I just cannot. Then we got Derrick Henry, Tractor Cito, going up against the Chicago Bears. The 10th best matchup for running backs on a per game basis, going up against the Chicago Bears. Lamar Jackson is back, so I think we get Derrick Henry to go back to his old ways. Again, still pretty pessimistic due to what has happened this season, but I think ultimately such a good matchup. I think you got to rock with him as a top 12 option. Now we move into tier number 2, the high-end running back number 2s. J.K. Dobbins, Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren, flying. There's not a star in heaven that we can't reach, as well as Breece Hall, who is my RB17. Before we break down the tier 2 at the running back position, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friend star partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you'll get a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you play $5 in the pick'em, you receive an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. If you're new to Underdog and don't know how the pick'em works, it's incredibly simple. You make at least 2 picks on the higher or the lower for the players. If both picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but you have to hit all the picks. Make sure that you guys check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, J.K. Dobbins, weeks 1 through 5, this very consistent mid-range to high-end running back too. The last 2 weeks, if you've played him, he has hit you with the 619 Rey Mysterio. Now, he is getting the bounce-back spot up against Dallas, which is going to be the 6th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. So, while I know it hasn't been the best as of recently, they did get plowed early on by the Giants, so different game script that I feel like this week a much more competitive close game where I feel like J.K. Dobbins will shine. Then we got Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in terms of a matchup for the running back position, the 19th best matchup on a weekly basis. Now, Chase Brown has been a guy that has been pretty gross all season long. I was very high on him the second that Joe Burrow got hurt. I realized that was a bad decision, but Joe Flacco has in a way reinvigorated this offense. So I do expect the offense to look better, and Chase Brown rushed for over 100 yards last week on 11 carries. So if he can just get lucky, like that Robin Thicke song, and find his way into the end zone, we might have a great day on our hands out of Chase Brown. Then we got DeAndre Swift going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. In terms of a matchup, this is the 2nd best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. Back-to-back games as a top 6 running back. I will caution that this is not normally the way that DeAndre Swift plays. Typically, DeAndre Swift is like this mid-range to low-end RB2. You play him, he gets you 10 to 15 points, and you're happy with it because the rest of your team plays well. But recently, DeAndre Swift has been amazing, and I will give him credit for that. I'm not going to be like, you just erase the last 2 games and forget that they fucking happened, because you can't do that. He got 19 carries last week, 124 yards, 1 reception, 14 receiving yards, and a touchdown. He had over 160 all-purpose yards in week 6 with a touchdown as well. The usage of Kyle Menenge has been very solid last week, so we'll see if that was more just because it was a blowout of the Saints. They're beaten down on the Saints, so they want to use Kyle more, or if it's because they're looking at a more 50-50 split going forward. Though, I will note, again, we have a great matchup on our hands, the second best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. So while I do have my worries ultimately with just who the player DeAndre Swift is, I think you'd be foolish to rank him lower than this. Then we move to Jaylen Warren going up against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Jaylen Warren is going to be a very reliable mid-range RB2 pretty much every single week with the upside to crack the top 12, which is exactly what he did last week up against the Bengals. Now he faces a much tougher task at the running back position going up against the Green Bay Packers. But what I will note is Jaylen Warren does see a reliable enough amount of dump offs in most weeks, should see around 5 targets, that even if the matchup is pretty bad on paper, this is the 29th best matchup for running backs on a per game basis, I still believe that Jaylen Warren can overcome that, especially if this game does become high scoring, like I think it might be, because this is the Rodgers revenge game. And I know Rodgers hasn't been very consistent this season, but the Rodgers revenge game worked in week 1 up against the Jets, and I think it will work here up against the Green Bay Packers. Then we move to Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, currently listed as questionable. Was limited on Wednesday at practice with the knee. Got to follow the injury report today and tomorrow. Right now, my assumption would be that he plays, but as we all know, assumptions make an ass out of you and me. Going up against the Bengals should be a very fun time, though, for Breece Hall, the best matchup for running backs. The only reason why I don't have him ranked higher in such a wet dream matchup is just because the fact that he's on the fucking Jets, and the Jets just have a stink like no other. I don't know if anyone of you guys are on Twitter and you saw that video of that girl getting banged in the porta potty where the guy opens the door. And again, this isn't like some perverted take. I saw it get retweeted by a bunch of accounts. I'm not just a pervert looking at girls getting banged inside of a porta potty, okay? Breece Hall going up against the Bengals. This is a great spot, but it is a stinker for Breece Hall. He is stuck on this dog shit offense, and maybe he gets traded. I think this might be one of his last games as a Jet, or maybe his last game as a Jet, because the bye week is in week 9, so we'll see what he does up against the Bengals. Again, the matchup is right there for him to take advantage of. The question is, can the Jets offense rise to the occasion? Now we move to tier number 3, which is going to be the mid-range RB2s with Kamani Vidal as well as Alvin Kamara. Now, Kamani Vidal has a matchup up against the Vikings where I do think that he could have a good game. This is the 22nd best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis. He was on top of the world in week 6 up against the Dolphins because, again, when you go up against the Dolphins, it's like a free ticket to put up the best fucking game of your career for you to just become whatever the best running back you think is. You become prime Adrian Peterson. You become whatever running back you want to be, right? That's how easy it is up against the Dolphins. Easy pickings. And then he goes up against the Colts, a much tougher defense. And obviously, he shits the bed there as the RB28, as does the whole Chargers offense. They look anemic in that game. Tonight, Monday Night Football up against the Monday Night Football tonight, Thursday Night Football on Prime, Amazon Prime, going up against the Vikings. I am much more, thoughtful of the fact that I think that they will be, close in this game. It was a lot of garbage time work up against the Colts. So if they can keep it closer, I think we do end up seeing Kamani Vidal have a much more reliable game. Then we got Alvin Kamara. Now, honestly, I was kind of just done with Alvin Kamara. I was so tired of watching this every single week with Kamara. Him just give you 10 to 13 points, and you were like, you know what, it's fine. He's a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, and, Kendre Miller was eaten into his workload, and it just felt gross. It was like, fuck, I have to start Alvin Kamara, and you're playing him. It feels disgusting. But now, Kendre Miller is out of the equation. He's hurt, sadly for him, and that means that we should be seeing more work with Alvin Kamara. Will Alvin Kamara look like he did last year, where he was just seeing so much volume? He was looking like a league winner last year. I don't know, but if there was an opportunity for it to happen, it would be now in the 7th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis, up against the division rival Buccaneers. Now we move to tier number 4, the lower mid-range RB2s with, you might just get hit with the Rico McMillan, Rico Dowdle, as well as Jordan, the numbers Mason. What do they mean? The 2 running backs inside of running back by committees. Last week, Chuba 54% of the snaps, Rico Dowdle 46% of the snaps, though Rico clearly played better, averaging 5.6 yards per carry on the season. If I had to play one of them, I would play Rico Dowdle. I just think that if Rico continues to produce how he's been and Chuba continues to play how he's been playing, then more and more of the pie is going to get cut in the favor of Rico Dowdle in this offense. Now, in terms of a matchup up against the Buffalo Bills, it's the 5th best matchup at the running back position. So if Chuba Hubbard was not a part of this equation, then we would be banging our chest out saying Rico Dowdle must start top 12 running back. But because of the fact that Chuba Hubbard is back into the equation and because they're going to be alternating drives like last week, I can't get too high on Rico, even though he did look great last week as the RB22. Then we got my RB21. Can you do something for me? Jordan, the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Now, the return of Aaron Jones is essentially just a kick to the gonads for Jordan Mason owners. I get Jordan Mason hasn't been incredible. Without Aaron Jones, he had that one big game up against the Bengals. The rest have been just pretty meh, but he has been a reliable low-end running back two-piece for your fantasy team. So losing out on that definitely could potentially suck if Aaron Jones is able to really cut this into a true 50-50 split. We will see what happens tonight. 9th best matchup for running backs on a per-game basis up against the Chargers. But again, if this was, Jordan Mason, no Aaron Jones, I'd have him ranked probably in tier 2, if not tier number 3. But we have to bump him down just due to the fact that who knows what they're going to look to do with Aaron Jones. Will this be a 50-50 split? Will this be more in the favor of Jordan Mason? Aaron Jones is kind of an unk, so maybe they look to ease him in more, and we have a good Jordan Mason game. There's just a lot of question marks here for me to rank him any higher than this. Now we move to tier number 5, which is going to be the lower end mid-range running back 2s, and then tier 5 is the low end RB 2s. As you can see, it's on your fucking screen. So JCM, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Ramondre Stevenson, Isaiah Pacheco, and Chuba Hubbard. JCM has had wet dream matchups on the board, back-to-back games, right? Week 5 up against the Chargers, he puts up belt to ass. Running back 5, over 110 rushing yards, 39 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. And you're just thinking, up against the Bears, this guy's going to feast. He has a bad game against the Bears. I tell everyone, do not worry. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. He gets to go up against the Cowboys. Yet another cupcake matchup, and you play him. And then what does he do? He sends you straight to Suplex City. You are so pissed. You're like, JCM, it's over. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground going up against a Chiefs defense that is good against the run, the 26th best matchup, but he's still the RB1 on the team. I still hold out hope for him. No Jaden Stormy Daniels, though. Does definitely hurt, but the ability is there. His skill set is there. It's just, can he actually do it? He's still averaging 5.2 yards per carry. I just want to see him get some more receiving work. I mean, just dreadful. His highest targets per game is just 2. Then we move to Ramondre Stevenson. Now, Ramondre Stevenson, I cannot stand Ramondre Stevenson. I cannot believe that the team has thrown Travion Henderson into the cuck corner. They keep feeding Ramondre Stevenson, and this dude is the definition of a trickster. I said this in the start-sit running back video. You feel tricked into playing him. He does this all the time. He will be on top of the mountain, Kilimanjaro. He'll be on top of the Empire State Building, King Kong. He'll be puffing up his chest. He'll go, boom, RB6 up against the Miami Dolphins in week number 2. People in the comment section, Nick, you gotta start him up against the Steelers. I say, I've seen this trick before. He's done this before to us. Then he's the RB52. People are like, Nick, you're right. Then he's the RB49. And everyone's like, wow, Nick, you're such a genius. And then up against the Buffalo Bills, running back 18, they laugh again. They say, Nick, how can you have told me to start? How could you have not told me to start Ramondre Stevenson? You're an idiot. And I say, you know what? Go ahead and start him again. You will regret it. He goes up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, Baton Rouge. And then he is the RB60. And everyone gives me the claim to fame again. And then last week, up against the Tennessee Titans, 18 carries for 88 yards and a tug as the RB13. So you know what I say? I say I stick with my intuition. Fuck Ramondre Stevenson. He isn't good. He has fumbleitis. He averages 3.6 yards per carry. But this week, with 6 teams on bye, I look like a Ramondre Stevenson dick rider because I have him ranked as the RB23. Because there aren't many other options. You are scounging the bottom of the barrel at this point, and we're picking up Ramondre Stevenson. up against the Cleveland Browns defense. This is no bueno. The 31st best matchup for running backs on a per game basis, but you know he's going to get fed. You know he's going to, because Mike Vrabel loves him. Rough spot. But again, this is where you're picking up for, because there's 6 teams on bye. Why would you, NFL, why would you just not, space them out a little bit more? But nah, it's six buys in week 8. Real fucking fun, right? Then we got Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been given it all. They're giving him more snaps. They keep giving him more touches. Can he grab it? Can he take it and run away with it? It's like Indiana Jones trying to grab that idol, and he puts the fucking sand in the bag on there, and he tries to run away, and then the big ball's chasing him. Can Isaiah Pacheco escape the big ball? That ball's name is Kareem Hunt. Now Kareem Hunt may not play, so how much does Brashard Smith cut into the workload? We shall see. This could be the game. This could be the game we've all been waiting for. 14th best matchup for running backs. Let's see it, though, before I can rank them higher than this. Then we got Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, 14 of 31, 2 receptions, 3 targets, 24 yards, averaging 3.7 yards per carry in the season. Again, great matchup up against the Buffalo Bills. What is he going to do with his workload? If it looks like last week, you are going to leave very, very, very disappointed. Now we move on into the 6th tier here, the low-end running back number 3s. Aaron Jones, Tyler Algier, Tony Pollard, Woody Marks, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Kyle Menenge, Tajay Spears, as well as Brashard Smith. Aaron Jones coming back from injury. I do think he is going to end up playing tonight. He's expected to start with the hamstring injury. He has missed week 3, week 4, week 5, the bye week 7. So he's missed 4 games, 5 total weeks. We'll see how healthy he is. We'll see how much of a workload he has. But at this point, again, you're scrounging the bottom of the barrel. You might as well play Aaron Jones if you have to. Then we got Tyler Algier. Now, Tyler Algier is a guy that really does disgust me, as the fact is that he keeps taking away some high-value touches from Bijan Robinson, dealing with the hip as well as knee injury. But when you're going up against the Dolphins, that is the type of matchup where he drops his drawers and lets him see his third leg, Greg Olsen style, third leg Greg. So again, while I don't trust his amount of touches up against the Dolphins defense, anything is possible. Then we got Tony Pollard. The Titans offense is so fucking bad. Cam Ward makes me want to throw up. The Indianapolis Colts matchup is not very good at all. The 28th best matchup for running backs. You just got to hope Tony Pollard scores. Then we got Woody Marks going up against the San Francisco 49ers, as well as 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Woody Marks found pay dirt last week, scored a touchdown up against the Seahawks. How likely is that to happen again? I'm not sure. They really didn't love Nick Chubb in the red zone as much in that game. But again, we did see Woody Marks have that great game in week 4 up against the Titans, and then him just get zapped out of the offense, Hassan style, in week number 5. So I would prefer to have Woody Marks over Nick Chubb, but I think Nick Chubb is just as likely to end up finding the end zone in this game. Then we got Kyle Menenge, and I know people have told me how to pronounce his name, and I'm just going to keep saying it wrong because there's been at least 20 people that are like, Nick, it's so annoying how you say his name. I have been pronouncing people's names for years. People say I pronounce Devon A-Chain's name wrong. Nick, it's actually A-Chan. Who gives a fuck, okay? You do. And again, if I egregiously mispronounce a guy's name, I try to learn it, so I am trying to get better with it, but I just think it's funny if people get mad about it to just completely pronounce it wrong. It's kind of like the Chael Sonnen effect, where he calls Alex Pajeda, he's like, Alex Piera. He just pronounces it completely wrong. I always thought that was funny. Yeah, Kyle Menenge, running back 12, up against the Saints, 13 carries, 81 yards, and a tug, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 13 yards. Great matchup up against the Ravens. I just don't think he's going to get as many touches this week. Then we move to Tajay Spears, again, attached to a Tennessee Titans offense that is essentially a sinking ship. Bad matchup, but should see enough dump-offs to finish as a top 34-ish guy. Then we got Brashard Smith. If Kareem Hunt is out, which is what it's feeling like, then I think Brashard Smith could end up having a halfway decent game. Most of his work, though, last week, he had a good game. He was the RB14, was just due to the fact that Kareem Hunt was hurt, out for a lot of the game, and because they benched Mahomes towards the end of the game, and then we saw Brashard Smith shine with the backups. Now we move into tier number 7, which is just the YOLO RB4s. Pray to the football gods above that it ends up working out. Kenneth Gainwell, Kenny G, the sax man. Bop-billy-bop. Oh, that's Cam Scatterboo. I'm a scat man. Bop-billy-bop. I was trying to do the for Kenneth Gainwell. Then we got Tyrone Tracy, Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, Justice Hill, Isaiah Davis, and Samaje Perine. If you have to play one of these guys, man, it's fucking over. It's so bad. It's basically like you're at the point where you're not knocked out yet, but the guy is just throwing hammer fists into your skull and you're just staring up at the lights in the UFC, and then maybe Mark Goddard or Herb Dean will come in and save you. Kenneth Gainwell just hasn't been getting touches with Jaylen Warren back, which I told you would happen, but he is a solid pass catcher. He got 6 receptions back in week 6. So if he does that again, he could be fine up against the Packers in a rough matchup. Then we got Tyrone Tracy, scores last week on his 9 touches. This is very much a backfield that is in favor of Cam Skattebo, so I would expect more Cam Skattebo going forward and less Tyrone Tracy, but maybe he scores up against the Eagles. Travion Henderson, I mean, they're just not giving this guy the ball. He was the RB 72 last week. Shout out to the Dolphins. 2 touches for 5 yards. He could get 15 touches, and it wouldn't shock me either. I can't fucking stand Mike Vrabel right now. RJ Harvey going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Clear RB2 on the team. If something happens to Dobbins, knock on wood, that's when we'll see Harvey. We just simply aren't in that scenario yet where they want to give the rock more to Harvey. Again, you're just hoping for the touchdown. He did score last week. Then we got Justice Hill. If this ends up being a blowout, we could see a lot of Justice Hill. If they are down big, we'll see more Justice Hill. I think this will be a closer game where we don't see a lot of Justice Hill. Then Isaiah Davis, your hope here is maybe they forget they have Breece Hall and they give him 6 touches. And then Samaje Perine, your hope here is he catches a touchdown. So again, once you're in this range, there's not much nice to say about these guys. It's not even worth spending fucking 30 minutes assessing these guys. We know what they are at this point in the season. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you didn't end up enjoying, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button down below. Like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It'd help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you a long time. As always, good boy!